Welcome back to Rated Radio with your hosts, Rayburn Alexander and Shane Wyndham. Shane, what's going on in your world?
Just packing. Remembering why I try not to move very often. You?
Discovering new music and having a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah. DMX and Mystikal. I can't wait to see how this week treats you.
Me neither. But enough about us. Let's roll this intro.
Before we talk about DMX and Mystikal, I think we have a rather interesting list that you picked out.
I did.
Could you tell me why you picked this list?
Well, no, I can't.
Okay.
I can't. It seemed like a good idea in theory. There are far too many revenge songs out there for us to not seize this opportunity of creating a top 10 list about it. So this week's list is top 10 revenge songs.
And I do actually only have 10 songs this week.
So do I. So
sorry again, Katie. Didn't mean to hit you with 40.
But I'm not a vengeful person, so I know I said there are a lot of songs out there. It's just not something that I want to devote a very long list to.
Well, let's have it.
First on my list is You Oughta Know by Alanis Morissette. A big ol' feminist fuck you to anyone that double crosses Miss Morissette. Again, sorry for your luck, Uncle Joey.
Dang.
Dave Coulier, man.
I don't know what you're talking about right now.
That song is about Uncle Joey from Full House. She was dating Dave Coulier at the time, so the whole, does she go down on you in a theater, like that whole thing? Yeah, that's about Uncle Joey.
Okay.
So there you go. Learn something new every day.
First on my list is I Hope You Suffer by AFI.
Good song.
I tried to approach this list with extreme hostility in mind. If we're talking revenge you plan to make good on, my thinking was that I'd go hard. My style is normally brushing things off after a few hours or days when I'm slighted, but when it comes to the worst of what I've felt toward certain humans, times when I've genuinely wanted revenge, well, let's go there. This song expresses my unending contempt for people who unceremoniously cut you out of their lives. The greatest mental and trust issues I have deal with people who present like lifers, only to disappear. In the words of Tech 9, I love you, but fuck you.
It's funny that you mentioned that song because that's actually a song that does remind me of you. You showed me that song for the first time many moons ago.
The AFI song?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, not the Tech 9 song.
I didn't know.
Not out of your character, but we're talking about the AFI song. Next on my list is How Do You Like Me Now by Toby Keith. I used to fantasize about singing this song to some of my school crushes in school, but then I realized I never needed any of you anyway, so how do you like me now?
Damn. I thought that was like a light, airy type of song. No,
Fuck no. This song's about revenge, boy.
Author Unknown is next on my list. It's a song by Jack Off Jill. This one pertains mostly to my writing. Some people seem to think I'm writing nothing but my lived experience when it comes to poetry and storytelling, and no matter how often I've argued otherwise, they still don't believe me. Others have come at me with their perception of my personal character instead of attacking who I actually am. Both of these things have hit me extremely hard and made me feel more and more antisocial over the years. I think that's primarily to do with my inability to reason with either scenario. Insofar as those situations are concerned, my approach has become exactly what this song lets on, that I refuse to keep being tormented by the projection of people who don't care to know me for who I really am. When I hit that wall with someone now, I'm just fucking done with them for my own sanity.
I would just like to comment how much I enjoy making these top 10 lists.
Yeah?
I really, really love making these lists.
It's fun.
It is. Anyways, I just felt the need to say that just then. Next on my list...
I couldn't tell when you said that just then.
Next on my list is Bust Your Windows by Jasmine or Yasmin or Yasmin Sullivan. The pettiness of this song is so very real. Real extreme, but real nonetheless. Remember, kids, violence is never the answer.
I don't know about all that. Violence might be the answer sometimes, you know.
It ain't worth it. That's all I'm saying. I'll be trying to bust no windows out people's cars.
All right, well, like I said, extreme hostility from me. Broken Hands is my next pick. It's a song by Lamb of God. There are people in the world who I've tried trusting over and over again, only to have my face spit in by them when the chips are down. Usually those people underestimate how easy revenge would be if I were the type to seek it. I like to think it's simply mistaking a deep well of kindness for weakness, but even deep wells have a bottom. I don't want to know what it is to crush someone as a response to being hurt, but I do know it wouldn't be pretty.
Next on my list is Cry Me a River by Justin Timberlake. Boy, oh boy, did my boy Justin do my girl Britney dirty with this one. But remember, for those of you that care, there are 3 sides to every story: his, hers, and the truth. And that we may never know.
Yeah. I like that, actually. The assumption that either side is the actual representation of the reality.
Next on your list?
Alpha and Omega by King 810. This one brings to mind some devastating messages I once got from the only person who made me seriously consider killing myself. That younger me would have done what he did for a time, crawl into a corner and hope for healing. The older me isn't nearly as woundable. I like to imagine leaning harder into that person's image of me just to terrify them out of my life forever. This song would have been a perfect thing to have listed on my MySpace page back in those days. Thankfully, people like that tend to make up their own minds about how evil I am anyway, and good goddamn riddance.
Last on my first half is Before He Cheats by Carrie Underwood. I will say it again for the people in the back. Violence is never the answer. And take it from someone that has spent thousands of dollars investing them into vehicles.
Would you beat the shit out of the vehicles or
Hot
something?
damn. No, what I'm saying is when you're with a car person who you and he both have invested so much money into vehicles, the idea of your spouse just fucking annihilating the value of your investment just for sheer pettiness.
That's right, because in the song, she like messes up a car.
So don't, like I said, violence is never the answer, guys.
And my last for the first half is a song called Roots by In This Moment. Like I said earlier, I tend to get over shit. I tend to forgive, even if I never forget. And I think the best way to get revenge is to just keep living your life without whoever it is that hurt you. Be happy to be without them. And if they take issue with that, you're welcome to borrow my words in response. Love me for me or fuck right off. That's basically what this song boils down to.
I like that. Love me for me or fuck right off. Nice.
Copyrighted. For those who don't understand.
All right. We ready to talk about some Mystikal?
Borrow. Do not sell my words.
Oh my God.
Yes, let's talk about Mystikal. Can I lead?
Yes, you can. You can have this dance, sir.
So the first album that we covered by Mystikal was Unpredictable from 1997. This was my bottom album.
This was also my bottom album.
Out of the 17 tracks, I gave 3 5s.
I gave 1 5.
Top track was Sleeping With Me.
My top track was You Can't Handle This.
And my bottom track was We Got the Clout.
My bottom track was We Got the Clout. I didn't like the ringing in it.
Yeah.
It was really annoying.
I'd agree.
Yeah, no, not a fan.
Oh, to still be young enough to think that No Limit Records was going to rule the world. The music on this album just isn't very good. Silk and Master P were here way too much, and some of the choruses were outright awful. Awful. Still, beyond all that, you'll find the James Brown of rap. Fun, energetic, unique, and truly unpredictable. A shame to hear one of rap's greatest talents surrounded by so much mediocrity, but that doesn't include E40, because E40 was on this album.
You say the James Brown of rap, and all I can think of, would a rap album by James Brown have been better than this?
Like I said, I love Mystikal as far as rap goes, and I think the James Brown of rap is the bomb.
All right.
Now, the question is, if we had James Brown doing a rap album and Mystikal
doing a funk album?
Yes.
All right.
Who would win out? What we need is somebody out there on the internet to do like some weird mashup vocal manipulation
DJ
thing.
Cumberbund, where are you at, man? This album for me has no real flow. I did not enjoy the Master P involvement, but that might have something to do with I don't really enjoy a lot of what Master P has to offer.
Can't back you on that, but
okay. It's okay.
We'll get there someday.
It's a little repetitive, low budget, and bland. It falls into my bottom ranking for a reason. I don't hate this album. It's still got, gave 1 5 and it got 4s and 3s, but it's just, there's nothing there for me really.
Well, I think we've said what we need to say about that disc.
Yep.
Next up was Let's Get Ready from 2000. This was my middle pick.
This was also my middle pick.
Out of the 17 tracks, I gave 4 5s.
I gave 3 5s.
My top track was Ready to Rumble.
My top track was Come and See About Me.
And my bottom track was Smoked Out.
My bottom track was I Rock, I Roll. It had this annoying Prince scream in it that was not Prince.
Okay.
Rubbed me the wrong way.
I feel you. I can't stress how much better these producers did versus the previous album we covered. The chorus work is all that holds this back from being stellar. Mystikal continues going ham all over these beats like some inhuman force of nature. Most of this is so close to greatness that it irks me to not be handing out more 5s.
This contribution had better beats. The production value was increased, higher energy that matched his vocals. Still repetitive, but the collabs were better on this album.
And something I want to point out before we move on is my top track, Ready to Rumble, essentially shares the same hook as I Rock, I Roll. Right. Ready to Rumble is fantastic, though.
Do you remember which track that was?
This is the very first one.
Okay, I gave it a 3. And I think I gave I Rock, I Roll a 2. So
that makes sense to me.
Okay.
The last album that we covered here was Tarantula from 2001. This was my top album.
This was also my top album.
Out of the 14 tracks, I gave 6 5s.
I gave 3 5s.
My top track was Bouncing Back.
I love that song. But on this album, it actually was If It Ain't Live, It Ain't Me.
I like that one. Mm-hmm. I think that was a single, and I had completely forgotten that song even existed. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bottom track was Go Ahead.
My bottom track was Big Truck Driver. We all know how I feel about driving trucks.
Oh, damn. So new listeners should probably start here. It's fairly in line with the previous album, which was, I think, his most popular album because it had Shake Your Ass and Danger and that sort of thing. But this album, it just had stronger hooks in more places, and a Mystikal who's slightly toned down, more melodic and sensible sounding. Personally, I wish he was more furiously fast-paced throughout, but won't argue more 5s and less filler, which is exactly what this album brought to the table.
This was more fun for me. It showed a different side of Mystikal that I don't think we really saw in the previous albums. This was nastier, man. Just a grittiness about it, but not like a low-budget grit.
Yeah.
This more focused direction, but still a little repetitive, just less repetitive than the previous albums. So, I'm sorry, am I boring you?
It just, yawns happen. Mystikal has a verse on Yellow Wolf's Getaway, his song Getaway, and it's perfection. If you haven't heard it, in my personal life, I reference it constantly because you have to hear it. It's so goddamn ridiculous and furious. And I have to look this up. Hang on.
Okay. Well, while you're doing that, I was going to ask you, have you ever heard Steve Stone's Rain Dance?
No.
Well, you should, because it features Mystikal and Tech 9. So
I could get behind that.
Maybe something to look into that I thought was interesting. Originally, Mystikal went by Mystikal Mike, and for some odd reason, I pictured him walking around with like a crystal ball. And in 2014, Mystikal was featured on Mark Ronson's Uptown Special. You know Mark Ronson from his works with Bruno Mars and Uptown Funk. So Mystikal's still around. He's still hanging out.
Yes, he is.
So what's your song that you wanted to show us, the Yellow Wolf track?
Oh, it's called Getaway. It's just that it cracks me up and it's so technically skillful. But part of the lyrics that just stand out in my head really remind me of what Mystikal does. This unpredictable, crazy shit you're not going to get from anyone else. Dude literally says, still piss on your porch and still shit in your house. To put my dick in your mouth, take it back out, put it back in, fuck on the floor, skeet on the couch.
I feel like I've heard you say that.
You just...
Nice. I feel like I've heard you say that at some point. It's probably when you're spouting off lyrics and we're all looking at you like, what the fuck are you talking about?
When you ugly motherfuckers think you... Yeah. Oh.
Like, Shane, we're in a golden corral right now. Can you calm the fuck down?
A greatest hits album from this artist could be killer. I would really, really like to see that. His strongest element for me in what we covered, not a single fucking skit on any of these albums.
No.
When have we ever had that experience in rap?
Yeah.
The music makes me feel like I'm watching Mike Tyson starring in a kung fu flick, which you can kind of see what that's like in Ip Man 3.
Oh, I haven't seen Ip Man 3. If you ask my dad, it's pronounced IP Man. Thank you.
Is it?
That's what my dad says.
I don't know. Maybe it is.
No, it's Ip Man. But we make fun of him hard because he always says IP Man. It's like those people that say, oh, we're going to go to El Chico and LA Fitness. Or Law Fitness, not LA Fitness.
Those are some of the greatest martial arts films you will ever see, by the way. They're fantastic. To be most successful in the future, I would recommend writing numerous hooks for each track and demoing them to an audience before sticking with one. Hooks are really where most of this is falling short for me. The music on that first album, it's like a knockoff Dark Side of Bone Thugs and Harmony is what the music's going for. Typical No Limit Records. But it's really at the low end of the spectrum. And Mystikal is just way too talented for that. And someone should just be writing his hooks. I think that's where Eminem gets a lot right these days is he's a great hook writer. But he also is not afraid to have someone else come in and do his hooks for him. Yeah. Mystikal should do that.
If you enjoyed what Mystikal has to offer, another thing that I wanted to recommend is Just a Little Thick, She Juicy. Mystikal was featured on that with Trinidad and Lil Dicky. And I love me some Lil Dicky. Do not cut that and use it at a later date.
You keep telling me that.
I know.
Is this just like my... if I had a computer program to search for phrases?
Your soundboard. You're creating a soundboard.
Here's a soundbite.
Yeah. I love me some Lil Dicky. Anyway, that's all I have to say about Mystikal. I'm ready to take a break.
I'm not.
Oh, well, you have more to say.
Got a little bit more.
Fine.
I wanted to know from the universe at large, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
Why can't this dude write a weed song? He wastes half of every weed track talking nonsense over the beat. Just rap, man. Because
he's smoking weed when he records
it. Yeah, but that's a given. Like, it's having to tell you. It's the closest you come to a skit in any of it. It's just like, hey, want y'all to know I'm really smoking weed right now. Like, we in the studio and whoo, this stuff is so good. Like, it's a minute or 2 or 3 of that shit. And then you get to a song that, if it has a hook at all, it's just once. You hear it once and then the song is over. I'm like, are you just trying to make a song that makes me think I'm high, but I'm not actually high?
You know what would be the kicker? Is that he recorded the skit and he wasn't smoking weed or doing anything like that at all.
Yes. It wouldn't surprise me if that was the case either. But dude, just rap.
Yeah.
It'll still come across like a weed song. The sex tracks that he does are pure comedic gold, which you don't expect from one of rap's finest talents. And he is one of rap's finest talents. He may not have garnered a large amount of fives, but this motherfucker has talent. He has technical versatility and speed and the furiosity with which he says things and presents. It's just unreal. I promise you, you've never heard...
You know what he reminds me of? If you took someone like the comedy chops of Afro Man and Afro Man actually gave a shit as far as like creating music for the masses. Because I mean, for the most part, Afro Man just does him. He just does the comedy thing.
Yeah, and I don't think all of his work is... Afro Man has a comedic element to him, but that doesn't mean that he lacks talent.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if you took someone like Afro Man with his comedy chops and made him put a little bit more effort into becoming like a mainstream rap artist,
right?
I think that it would coincide with the stuff that Mystikal has to offer, especially on the Tarantula album for me.
Gotcha.
Like Bouncing Back and If It Ain't Live, It Ain't Me.
Or Danger.
That's the other one I was thinking about. Like if you...
Or with the one, as my Aunt Jennifer used to run around saying, take a bath. Wash yourself.
Shake your ass.
Take a bath.
Show me what you're working with.
Just makes me think of About a Boy every time when I see it now. I shouldn't.
The movie About a Boy?
Yes.
Isn't that Robert De Niro movie with Leonardo DiCaprio?
No.
Okay, then I'm thinking of a completely
probably
different
like
movie.
A Boy's Life or something. I'm pretty sure it's Hugh Grant.
Okay.
It feels very much like Love Actually.
Okay.
He's like this musician who lives off of royalties and he's all by himself and alone. And this kid comes into his life and he ends up like buying the kid this Mystikal CD. I don't know. It's
not ringing any bells, but I'm very intrigued. Hugh Grant and a Mystikal CD.
I'm still going to stand by the Rick James, or not the Rick James, although that's not bad either. The James Brown of rap. Like, take a normal funk vocalist and compare that to what you get from James Brown. Like, that's the difference between most rappers and Mystikal here. You notice it. You know when Mystikal is on the microphone. Yeah. And if you like trucks, this might be the rapper for you. Because I'm pretty sure every album talks about, we the big truck boys. You know, that's for the
big
shit.
Truck driver.
Anyway.
Driving that big old funky big rig.
Yes. That first album may not have been a lot of fun, but this was a fun listening experience beyond that for me. I enjoyed myself quite a bit. But yeah, let's take a break. Do you mind if I make my recommendation?
I will allow it.
It's the acoustic version of the song Ghost by Bad Flower. My brother-in-law has shown me this performance enough times now that it stays stuck in my head. Stick with it if you go to listen or watch because it gets really intense.
My recommendation is Can't Be Alone by Mr. Paul Cawthon. While Cocaine Country Dancing is still a winner, my recommendation shows a more sensitive side to the country artist.
Okay.
Again, with those single, soulful male country artists, man.
So I haven't listened to any of his stuff. Does he do a lot of like normal music?
Yeah, the album that Cocaine Country Dancing actually comes off of is a really good album.
Okay.
Imagine, the only analogy that I could give for this song in particular, his vocals actually remind me of our dear friend, Mr. Neil Ryan.
Oh.
Especially on that song, a lot of driving after midnight voice and in the Las Vegas desert, kind of similarities with Chris Isaac even, but the vocals, just there's something about it that reminds me of Neil, especially in Starlight Black.
Yeah.
And I wanted to take the opportunity because I didn't get to thank him a couple episodes back. Thank you, Mr. Neil, for following through and getting me that gorgeous album of yours, Neil Ryan and the Mistreated.
Yeah, she's saying this because I just now gave it to her.
But he said he was holding on to it for a while.
I sucked that bad, man. It was sitting on top of the other records and I just completely missed.
It's all right.
Blanked. I do that constantly. It's okay. This is who Neil and I are.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm sure you will more than understand, but thank you so much, Neil, for following through and getting me your album. I really appreciate it. Another one to add to the collection. I
did wonder about Paul Cawthon. I didn't know if I should go listen to more because when I heard it, I didn't know if that was going to be like Wheeler Walker Jr., where that's his shtick. That's what he does. Yeah. So if you listen to a song like Sit on My Face or Fuck You Bitch or any of that, then it's
a different side of him. There's more. He's an onion. There are layers to Paul Cawthon.
I should have known because it's coming from Codes.
Yeah. So, but like I said, Cocaine Country Dancing is still a banger, but it is a more fun version of Paul Cawthon.
I want to recommend a website known as Personalization Mall. It's personalizationmall.com because shopping for personalized stuff on Amazon can be an unclear chore sometimes. This lets you see exactly what's what, and everything I've ever ordered from the site has been high quality. You could also make some photo books with ease on drugstore sites like Walgreens or CVS. So this year, make your gifts a little more personal.
This coming from you who gives personalized Christmas gifts every year.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's really hard to know. And when you see on Amazon, when you see the engraving stuff, that sort of thing, personalized puzzles, like you never know how long is it going to take.
Yeah.
You know, and Personalization Mall just clarifies right at the outset exactly what you want to know. Do you have a plug?
I have a recommendation. I'm also going to be recommending a website that has made my life about 10 times easier. It's Sendable. This is a paid social media scheduling website. I am a person that works in social media marketing. And not only do I work in social media marketing, I do social media marketing on the side for this podcast. And like I said, this is something that I use in my personal and professional life that makes it 10 times easier. So if you're willing to pay the cost of having a site schedule posts on your behalf so you don't have to worry about doing it manually every day, this is the site for you. It's made posting for the podcast 10 times easier, and I now have more time to devote to family, friends, anything else that might want to take up my time. So
again, none of the stuff that we mention on the show is ever sponsored.
No, but we would love to be sponsored.
Well, I don't know about that. I just like telling people things that I honestly enjoy interacting with. So that's been nice. Sorry if we're boring you with this. Let's go ahead and take another break so we can talk about DMX. Goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. You were going to say something?
I was going to go, arf, arf.
Yeah. DMX has passed recently, and I think it's sad news for most people because I think the majority of us anticipated something else coming out of DMX before it was all said and done.
Yeah, it kind of caught everybody off guard. Nobody was really... I mean, I'm not comparing his death to like Kobe because everybody was pretty broken up about that, but nobody saw this coming with DMX. Yeah,
you always anticipated that this humble person who made the kind of rap that he did, but also seemed like he was searching for peace, and he was hoping to get to that point in life where he had it. And I know, having followed a lot of the stuff online and whatnot, that he did get there. It's just you expect to see this become an old man.
Yeah,
he's going to be with us, but he's not, and that's really sad. So
you expect him to be Clint Eastwooding it, sitting on his front porch, barking at kids on his own lawn.
Yes. All right, so let's talk about it. So the first album that we covered was It's Dark and Hell is Hot from 1998. This was my top album.
This is my middle album.
Out of the 19 tracks, I gave 13 fives.
I gave 4 fives.
My top track was Stop Being Greedy.
My top track was Fucking with D.
Okay.
Fucking with D. I had to specify because Shane likes to say, no, you got to say the slang version of it, how it's written. So
well, actually, when you said it the second time, it was easier to follow. So I'm glad you.
I know. That's why I said it again, because I realized slowing it down, it sounded really stupid.
Yeah. My bottom track was the Mickey skit.
Same. The dog barking skit is what I called it.
Mickey.
So.
DMX was a breath of fresh air then, and he remains a sign of transition from old school gangster rap to the silky and emotional stylings of those who've come after him. He was an effective storyteller and the first rapper I ever heard incorporate spoken poetry into his albums. A very classic spin for any rap fan, so if you've never heard this album, go pick it up, hear it on Spotify, do what you've got to do. This is one you don't want to be without.
The gruffness of DMX's voice is still the standout. This album offers sick beats, not as one note as I expected from DMX's... Was this his first album, or was there one before? I think there was one before, maybe.
I think this was his debut.
You think? Okay.
The problem is, I don't know if you caught it, but he released a lot of music in quick succession. So his second CD actually came out the same year.
Really?
Yes, and it's very well received as well. Not one we're covering today.
No, but the ones that we are covering, especially the first and second album, I mean, there's only a year difference between them.
By the way, I picked all of these albums for this episode, and what I was going for was a slice for different points of each rapper's career.
Which is probably a good thing, considering that DMX did just recently pass. This adds a variety, but stays true to the direction. Less skits is what I would request. Again, I'm still not a huge fan of skits. If he would have offered something as far as a spoken word poem during those skits, I might have been a little bit more lenient than just a dog barking.
Well, while we're talking about skits, the Mickey skit did hit the bottom for me, and he's got skits. A lot of what he did on this CD, I find really palatable. It didn't feel as bad. It actually felt like a good transition from song to song. And sometimes it's a really decent setup. Like you feel it. You get a better sense of who he is outside of just the lyrical content that's there. It's better than most skits that we've been covering on these types of albums. So I was happy for that. Sorry, I just did a lot of talking.
No, you're welcome to our podcast where Shane talks a lot and we're okay with it.
Yep. Next album was And Then There Was X from 1999, which was the year after the album that we just covered. So he released 3 albums in the span of 2 years, a year and a half.
Yeah.
This was my middle album.
This is my bottom album.
Out of the 18 tracks, I gave 5 5s.
I gave 4 5s.
My top track was Here We Go Again.
Party Up was my top track, but I will say my runner-up was Make a Move.
Okay. My bottom track was the Kennel skit.
Same.
Listening to DMX rap remains either a fun or moving experience. That having been said, many hooks were subpar here, and sometimes the beats seemed like an odd fit. Some very strong hits, a bunch of near misses, and skits that rarely connected.
I literally wrote first thing, skits were pointless. And that may be putting it harshly, but who gives a fuck? Lyrics were insightful. This was a more religious direction for DMX, who often said he wanted to become a preacher. So it fits well. You almost can tell he's on a religious journey in this album, which I've said in the past that I don't vibe with really. But this album, even though it was my bottom, I can appreciate the direction. Lyrics were insightful. He added some older sounding inspirations and added strings and horns, which you don't typically get with a rap album. So I thought that was cool too.
And the fact that I said skits rarely connected, I should point out that even though I said that, the one skit that I just talked about a minute ago, I think is on this album, and it's the lead into Here We Go Again, which I kind of have a lot of deep connection and personal,
experiences tied to it.
Yeah. But that having been said, it is what it is. Let's talk about the next CD. I'm sorry. Sometimes I realize I'm talking about shit I shouldn't be talking about. I have to reel myself back in. Third album was Grand Champ from 2003. This was my bottom album.
This is my top album.
Out of the 23 tracks, I gave 3 5s.
I gave 7 5s.
My top track was We Go Hard.
My top track was We Bout to Blow.
And my bottom track was Rough Radio, a skit.
My bottom track was Any Skit.
Okay.
So
I can't knock you.
Thank you.
This LP rarely came together on any given song. I've heard it said that X didn't evolve and his shtick got old, but I think the shtick just got lazy after the more mainstream hits landed. A lot like the previous album, but with more skits, weaker verses, and a rapper who seems convinced at times that he is a literal dog.
I mean, he put a dog on the cover of this album.
Yes, he did.
This album, it had so many tracks, but if I'm looking at the albums as a whole, as rating them the way that you would think that they would need to be rated, Shane, I probably would have listed It's Dark and Hell is Hot first, but Grand Champ took it because it had so many tracks. I
did see online, by the way, that someone was recommending this, is what it was. Like a big DMX fan that initially hated this album, but that it begins to feel better after a while. It was definitely more fun, I felt like, in a lot of the songs. I ultimately went with Grand Champ. Not only, I mean, yes, the average was higher than the first album that we covered, but the nail in the coffin was Grand Champ got more 5s. And I mean, that's undeniable. But my notes might prove otherwise of my appreciation for this album. I was going to say, this was my bottom in a big way, so let's have it. This album, kind of homophobic. Skits are annoying. Very 2000s rap. It's a larger sound with more collabs, and it's less driven all over the place. But I did enjoy the R&B additives. Okay. So that's where a lot of that's coming in. Yeah. I didn't feel that stuff for some reason. I don't know why. Okay. But yeah, it has its moments. So that's always nice. We didn't talk earlier. We were on the very first album, and completely somehow you and I didn't even touch on the fact that Phil Collins in the Air Tonight. He did a cover of it. Yeah. Do you know that got a 5 for me? I'm not surprised. It's really well done. It's not bad. The world of rap. And you don't expect it out of someone like DMX. Yeah, he really took it and made it his own while keeping the chorus intact. The music makes me feel like I'm lucky to have come through what that younger me did. All right. Why are you gesturing to me? I didn't know if you had some notes. No. I listed my notes. I want to hear all about you. Okay. The only other thing I have here is DMX had the rhythmic skill and vocal force to have been a member of Onyx, which is to say he's quite talented. But there was also a warmth to his voice, which made him feel more relatable than any member of Onyx ever did, I think, to the majority of people. He's responsible for at least one of rap's heavyweight LPs, and I look forward to hearing more of his disco as we go along.
If you like what DMX has to offer and want to see it put to film, some of the movies that included DMX's works are Romeo Must Die, Exit Wounds, Belly, Cradle to Grave, Last Hour, and Gone in 60 Seconds, which is my personal favorite. Similar sounding artists include Exhibit, Ja Rule. I mean, vocals can't really deny the whole.
Yeah, those are both on point.
Yeah. Tupac and Busta Rhymes. His strongest element for me is his gruff vocals. There's something about his vocals and his ability to, I guess, speak so passionately about what he's going through, his experiences, what he's feeling. Like I said in that religious album, and then there was X. Like you said, you could tell he was on a journey to something. He was seeking something. And that really shows through on that album. How I think he could be more successful in the future. Again, we did this after he died, but in my personal opinion, I think that offering a greatest hits contribution would be really beneficial, especially in the wake of his death. His first... We said a lot of good things about DMX, but let's talk about some of his, his personal life that I thought was interesting. He went to jail over 30 times. His first conviction was after he stole a junkyard dog, which says a lot.
Nice.
And he won a Soul Train Award and a Sammy Davis Jr. Award for Entertainer of the Year in 2000.
Can we talk about one of the more interesting things in his music? It happens occasionally from different artists to me that I'll go to look for a song on a CD and think I've completely bought the wrong CD back in the day. It's happened a few times. So the first time I can remember it is DMX with How's It Going Down? Because I didn't know it had an intro skit at the beginning of it that's actually part of the song.
Okay.
Lying ass bitch, you ain't shit, that thing. And I remember pushing play and the song doesn't come on and I don't just sit there and listen to the skit. And it's like, well, fuck, how do I get my hands on that song? Because dumbass me didn't just let it play.
You weren't patient enough to sit through it?
Right. The same happened with What If God Was One of Us?
Joan Osborne.
Yes, because the very beginning of that song has like some old lady in her house singing some weird shit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Most people don't know that because the radio version, they cut all that. You're right.
Yes. And that one, I was more prepared for what to anticipate. So I think it was my Aunt Sandra who we put it in and it started playing. And she's like, did I buy the wrong CD? Now, the one time that I really did not figure it out it had to have been about a year, was Gwen Stefani's debut, the Love Angel Music Baby CD. The very first song on that album was a radio hit. And my girlfriend at the time bought the CD and I didn't know the name of the song.
Oh, do you know it now?
Yeah, it's What You Waiting For. But it's got this little intro to it. And
is that the TikTok?
Yes.
Okay.
And I wasn't patient enough to sit there and sit through it to figure out that was the actual song. It was on the CD. I thought I had to go buy a single somewhere. I'm a dumbass.
You're talking about stuff like that, and all I can think about is that Dave Matthews album where it skips from like one number to 13.
Yes.
And you're like, where the fuck did the other tracks go? I just always thought that was crazy.
Or Korn's Follow the Leader, starting out with just 13 tracks or 12 tracks of just 8 seconds of noise, I think is what it was. Like just blank noise.
Yeah, some musicians are real big fucking trolls, let me tell you.
It was awesome when you had CDs back in the day. You don't find it on Spotify like, hey, this is nothing.
Yeah.
What is this? Anyway, who was your winner?
DMX.
Yeah? Me too.
Yeah, rightfully so, in my opinion. Not to say that Mystikal didn't offer anything. It's just, X gave it to me, and I was happy to get it.
Were you now?
I was.
Yeah, it was not exactly close for me, which did surprise me. That first album really did hurt Mystikal. I think he brought equal amounts to the table.
Yeah.
I also think he probably has more skill than DMX. He's not as emotionally affecting as DMX. But I think if you're looking for talented hip hop artists, Mystikal's the way to go. You just have to get the hits that you know and you love. DMX, I could see a lot of this stuff growing on you over time, even if you don't immediately love it. But
their averages were closer for me than I expected they would be. But the number of fives, not even
DMX.
Close.
Yeah.
Not even close.
So let's get back to our revenge songs.
All right.
Why don't you go ahead and lead us forward?
First on the second half of my list is Gives You Hell by All American Rejects. We all have been in the position of having to continue to see limited glimpses of our exes. And I think we can all agree that whether or not better, it's still pretty damn hard.
Word.
You probably know more than anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, your ex list is vastly larger than mine.
Well, it's not that it's large. It's just that I talk about them a lot.
It's larger than mine. I have 2.
Oh, I see what
That's
you're saying.
what I'm saying.
I'm sorry.
I am
Forget who I'm talking to here.
Yeah, my ex list is 2 people that lived in the same town.
I wasn't actually in a lot of relationships. It's still going to be larger than yours.
Mm-hmm.
I may have had some intimate experiences with a number of people, but
You hoard around.
I was not in too many relationships throughout the course of my life. I'd say 4 or 5 that were.
Well, then what's funny is I might know all about your relationships. It's the sexual conquests that I'm still learning about.
Yeah, and I never thought of them as conquests either. So it was.
I didn't say who was getting.
I know. I'm just.
Who was getting conquested? I don't know.
I'm just throwing it out there. It wasn't like I was, I want to fuck this person just so I can say I fucked them. It was never that.
Okay.
It was more like, damn, she fine. I need some of that.
All right.
A lot of the times, damn, I need some more of that, and it goes where it goes. And sometimes it just didn't go anywhere, which is fine.
You had fun.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
You had fun. It's all that matters.
So my first pick for the second half.
Sorry, I was rude and didn't introduce you. Shame.
No, it's okay. That's all right. It's Till It's Gone by Yellow Wolf. Just to bring him up again here. Success changes everything. It will change you, and it will change how most everyone around you views who you are. I made the mistake of hinting at just how successfully my first major book deal was going at one point, and plenty of people came out of the woodwork begging me for pretty pennies. It made my circle a lot smaller. And it made me realize just how harsh my standard for being helpful needed to become. I'm still someone you can call to get you out of a jam in the middle of the night, but even my immediate family knows asking me for money is a fruitless endeavor. I've got nothing for you. Trying to do better for myself and my kids than that heavy struggle a younger me knew. I'll never get there if I'm throwing money at people.
People fucking suck. Sorry. Hey, by the way, Shane, can I borrow $5? Just kidding.
I got 3 ones in my wallet and they're going toward my son's pizza party this week.
Well, I ain't going to take pizza out of your baby's mouth because Taylor would never forgive me. Anyway, moving on to my next pick. It's Irreplaceable by Beyonce. Queen Bee shows you just how to do a breakup gracefully. Not only packing her ex-lover's things, but even going so far as to offer to call a cab for their cheating ass. #boss.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I know
the
it.
song.
It was on the makes me think of my wife list. So no, she had it playing in the car.
I gave him eyebrows just then, guys. It's like, what?
Go back and listen to the episode. It's not what you think it is.
Okay.
Next for me is No Runnin' to Your Mama by Tech 9.
There he is.
Ever since the end of my middle school days, I've been keenly aware that danger can present itself unexpectedly at any time. I've seen what happens when someone comes at me out of nowhere. I suspect I haven't seen the last of such dangers, and even though I don't like that violent side of myself, I do know that my desire for self-preservation is much stronger than I once believed. You just don't go at Kaiser Soze with hesitation in mind. You just don't.
That was what is it? The
Usual Suspects.
Usual Suspects. I was going to say Suspicious Suspects. It's a Usual Suspects reference. Nice. Next on my list is Look What You Made Me Do by Taylor Swift. Taylor not only gets mad, but she gets even. Don't believe me? Check out her album sales.
Mic drop, except it's on a stand. I Get Mad by Violent J. The angriest I get as an adult who's made it a point to erase the majority of drama from my life is when I'm on the road. This song's a good representation of how pissed off and vindictive I can get behind the wheel when someone's pointlessly putting lives at risk. It's been a real wake-up call for me because I thought I had most of my reactionary ways under control. But there are still times when I struggle to ignore dumbasses, something that's only gotten worse now that I'm a parent who feels the need to be protective. I'd be lying if I said there wasn't some part of me that's fantasized about following one of these idiots home, beating the stupid out of them, or having some device installed on my car that flashes the word dumb fuck at them when they do what they do. Mm-hmm. Maybe even just seeing traffic cops writing more tickets for reckless driving than they do for speeding and expired tags. And I know those things aren't kosher either, so save your breath. But anyway, I'm slowly learning to zen the hell out in situations involving bad drivers.
You know what is so crazy to me that I just realized? As much as we both talk about how angry we can get, we have never seen each other angry. At the most, I think we've seen each other perturbed or annoyed, but you've never seen me angry and I've never seen you angry, which is funny because of what your wife said when I just spoke to her about your daughter being just like you.
Yeah.
So I just think it's funny.
I'm glad. I'm glad that more people have not seen me angry.
I mean, I've known you my whole life. And aside from me being really pissed off, also shitting in my pants when I was a baby, you haven't seen me angry. So
I think that's why this relationship works. It's what I seek out is I want to be able to talk to people. I want an open dialogue with folks. So if you want to talk about things, cool. There's a way to do it. And I don't want people who piss me off all the time.
You and I also are not ever trying to convert each other to our way of thinking.
No.
We basically live in the realm of it's good to be different, it's okay to be different, and to talk about our differences. But our ultimate goal is to not try to convert the other person to feel the way that we feel or think the way that we think. So there's a mutual respect there that keeps us from ever getting in heated discussions with each other that could possibly lead to anger. So just an observation I made.
Yeah.
Next on my list is Send My Love to Your New Lover by Adele. Another graceful way to end a relationship. Sometimes acceptance and wishing them the best is all you can do.
Your list feels so much lighter than mine. Here we go.
All right.
Wannabe by Chris Calico. It's pretty taboo to talk about, but humans are easily the deadliest creatures on this planet. Self-awareness, evolved from a lizard brain, really does come with a lot of unwanted baggage, it seems. The line separating us from civility and crime is a very thin one, and we owe much of our daily peace to countless generations of society building, which took place long before we were even born. It may not feel like it, but we're working toward advancing the lessening of human suffering for future generations. Still, anyone who's taken an honest look at what they're physically capable of doing, or the extremes they could be pushed to, sees no mystery in murder being so common among our species, and revenge is easy fuel for that fire.
As light as you think my list is compared to yours, piggybacking off of what you just said, I like to think that my list shows the evolution of humanity and their emotions to not be fueled by this primal urge to get even and get angry, and sometimes realizing that your life is better without the person doesn't mean that it's not going to hurt. It's not going to fucking suck.
It's a very good thing. I love that society is in a place where maybe we're arguing more about should men suck each other's dicks or should two men who call themselves women suck each other's dicks versus should we burn people at the stake because our religious differences exist. No, I like the advancement. It may seem like you're in a world of stupidity and shallow shit, and to a degree that's true. But there is advancement there.
There's plenty of stupidity still out there. Yeah. It's alive and well, and I don't think that's something that we as humanity will ever move past to an extent. I just have high hopes that we're headed in the right direction.
Yeah.
So,
and let me clarify. Two dudes who identify as women are two women.
Look at you taking a stand. Good for you, Shane.
What's your last song?
Proud of you.
Stop smirking. We're talking about revenge.
I know, but proud of you. Anyway.
Just didn't want it misunderstood. That's all.
Good clarification. Next on my list is Fuck You by CeeLo Green. pretty self-explanatory, but at least Green tries to hide the message a bit with an upbeat melody.
Yeah, I like that song.
Because sometimes all you need to do is just say, fuck you, and move on.
I don't disagree.
What's last on your list?
I See You by Brother Lynch Hung. And that's the letters. I See You.
I See You.
Yeah.
Intensive care unit?
Yeah. I wanted to end this on the most disturbing note that I could manage.
Oh, Lord.
My distaste for people who abuse children is pretty extreme. And if anyone ever fucked with my kids, I suspect this is the very song I'd be listening to while I was on my way to ensure it never happened again. This is eye for an eye thinking, which I like to think of myself as being above, but when it comes to kids, I make no promises that my beast will stay in its cage.
So you remember what I said about violence not being the answer, children? Forget everything I just said, because in situations like that, it is completely acceptable. I have no patience whatsoever for people that abuse children, the elderly, or animals. Fuck off.
Do you want an extreme take or one that's going to seem extreme?
Sure.
I actually don't agree with myself, with my nature. Like what I just said is the way that I feel. And I think there's so much passion involved in that desire to hurt people who hurt kids that I don't know that I could stop myself under certain circumstances, but I don't think it's the right answer. I actually think that society is mostly involved in creating a lot of these monsters who hurt animals, who hurt children. There are definitely people that are born with brains that are different and that don't feel empathy and compassion for other humans. And I'm not sure what we do with that, but I don't know that the correct answer is just to go kill them, which is a lot of people's gut reaction and mine. I don't,
and I know people that it is their gut reaction too. I'm a firm believer in people like that should be severely punished, like almost the worst thing that they could imagine. In some ways, I think that putting them to death is almost giving them a scapegoat. Like, what right do they have after committing something so terrible, and we said we wouldn't get on stuff like this, that they should be allowed to escape the potential harshness of the world, you know? So, I mean, it just depends. If that ever, I don't have children of my own, but I could not imagine how my physical reaction to finding something like that out would be. Because I mean, I can tell you what I would probably feel in the moment. I don't even have children. I would want revenge. I would want to hurt that person as much as possible. It's probably not right. But again, you know, we're humans. We still have that primal instinct to protect.
Yeah. Eye for an eye thinking. That's what I said. Yeah. And that's one of I could knock this country a lot for things, but one of the things that I do genuinely appreciate about it is even though the justice system fucks so much up, and it really does, and that is kind of part and parcel as to why we shouldn't have these extreme reactions. But what I love is that it does protect people. It allows them fairness. And the majority of what it's supposed to be saying is the best we can do with some of these people is put them in a cage.
Well, and even when you put them in a cage, especially when it comes to kids or rapists or things of that nature, we're not talking like petty drug charges, things like that. The laws of nature take care of themselves inside that cage. There are plenty of people inside of, I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just saying that's what happens.
Well, yeah, that's talking about inhumane conditions in prisons and stuff too. That's also part of the problem. I think the reason I have hesitation to agree with you here is because knowing the reality of what's happened is really hard. So somebody could be accused, convicted of child sex crimes, for instance, and they're completely innocent. And there's no way to know. But as the parent of that child, if you think someone is actually guilty, but in reality they're not, and I don't know what the situation or circumstances there would be, it's just you don't want the cruel and unusual punishment because it could happen to you. Yeah. You know, false imprisonment and stuff like that. It could happen to your kids.
Yeah, because stuff like that happens all the time. And I don't think it's a matter of you agreeing with me, disagreeing with me. That I'm not disagreeing with you in your standpoint. What I'm saying is the way things are, because it's very real. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If you get convicted of a crime like that and get put in prison, whether you're guilty or not, the people in prison are going to make sure it's really, really hard for you in there, or you don't make it out.
Yeah, I know. And that's something that I think should change, I guess is what I'm getting at.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Because
I'm not.
At the end of the first half of the list where I said that the best thing you can do when it comes to revenge for like maybe an ex or something is to get on with your life.
Yeah.
Someone who's hurt you is to live the best life you can. Mm-hmm. And if they ever regret what they did to you or the way things went down, you're happy. They can't touch you. It's the same sort of thing with this justice system stuff. I think the best that we can do is to treat each other humanely. Yeah. The worst murderer that you can think of, you're taking their freedom to do what they want. They can't go out and kill people. They can't move freely anywhere in the world. But let's still feed and clothe and make sure that they live in air-conditioned circumstances and that we don't push ourselves to do what they've done. And again, I've walked back completely where I was with ICU, that song. But I think there are certain circumstances under which, because of societal conditioning and because of our experience and our coping mechanisms, that we would act before we even had a chance to regret. And I think a lot of people who do some of these horrible things are probably the same thing. They're acting on instinct. Yeah. And they don't necessarily mean to do the evil or the harm that they do. I don't know what we're talking about anymore.
We often say that we're not going to talk about serious things, but we're a little bit bleeds through.
See, this is the problem. This is the problem with never talking religion or politics on any show that's happening. I like to think of everyone involved as serious people. Yeah. And if you can't occasionally touch on these things, it's doing a disservice to your audience or the people out there. That I'm not a sunshine and roses person who just wakes up to watch TV and never thinks about the state of the world. That's just not who I am.
That's very much not Shane if you've ever met him in person.
And it's not you either. You don't tend to go there as much as I do. I don't just maybe don't see it, because I think there are things we definitely disagree on. So
but like I said, more people need to be like us. Just because we don't agree on everything, we have found our common ground. We have found the level that we have mutual respect for each other. And I think that that's one of the biggest issues with society nowadays is people can't coexist.
It's very exclusionary.
People can't respect the difference in opinion and move on with their life and not let that keep them from cohabitating.
We're never going to change minds if we just shut our doors to people who don't think like us. Yeah. Let's have a real conversation, because most of us have more in common than we do things that are different. Anyway, we've been off on a tangent here.
Yeah.
Let's get back to our music show.
All right. Well, I'm at the end of my list, and you just listed your last song, which is ICU. So why don't we draw... Wait.
Yeah, it's the end of the season.
Are we at the end of the season?
We are.
Well, we still need to draw.
Do you remember what this means?
This means that we draw for 6 artists.
A new album by past artists we've already covered.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We did switch it up.
5 of them.
5. That's right. We did switch it up. I forgot about that. Ooh, I get to draw.
Why don't you do the honors?
I get to do it. I know you already shook it, but I'm going to shook it. I'm going to shook it for good measure.
I'm going to shook it again. She's excited.
First artist is Kaleo.
All right. That's good, because I remember not knowing how to feel about this artist. So
second artist is The Clash.
You already know my feelings there.
Third artist is Ingrid Michaelson. Taking it all the way back to episode 1, baby. Fourth artist, Radiohead.
All right.
Sorry, I just called you baby. Made it weird. And the fifth artist that we're going to be covering is Britney Spears.
Of all the things that could have come out of that jar.
I know. We had a lot to work with there.
Well, I'm still looking forward to it. I think it will be interesting.
I feel like we're going to travel back in time with Britney and Radiohead, because it's been a while. I mean, we're ending season 4, about to be in season 5, and coming up on our 1-year anniversary of doing the podcast.
Of Rated Radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels good.
We need to do a special or something at some point for the listeners.
Yeah, I think another special would be a good idea.
Well, that's going to do it for this week. Hit up our playlist to hear all the songs we talked about. Get our full ratings, t-shirts, and bonus episodes at teespring.com/ratedradio. And guide what we listen to by suggesting new artists for our jam jar. You can even send us voice messages on Facebook for a shot at being on the show. Your support is really what makes or breaks us, so thank you again for listening and sharing. Until next time, fill your world with music.
And give me my motherfucking bump back. You got a lot to learn, dog.